Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show. My name is Avrum Rosensweig, and I'm delighted to be here with you. Today, what we are doing is called Parsha Prose, and I'm doing that together with my friend and my colleague, Rabbi Shlomo Gamora. How are you, Rabbi?
Thank you very much. Baruch Hashem. We are just after Purim. On a personal basis, I had a new granddaughter to my son Yair and Shifra. This is very exciting. And just yesterday, my granddaughter Ruti had her bat mitzvah. So Baruch Hashem, Am Yisrael Chai, with all the difficulties around, we have to focus on the positive, on the growth, on the Chaim, Am Yisrael Chai, on the life.
Well, what are these simchas like for you? Thank God, especially in religious families, there are many, many children, and therefore many, many simchas. There are also a lot of challenges. But I know within my family, I have four sisters, and, they have a lot of kids, and now they're having children. And I'll often get a call and go, oh, your great niece just, no. It's not unusual to hear about simchas. So it must be a beautiful thing for you.
Baruch Hashem. Listen, we work very hard in life. And, money is not going to last. Many of the physical achievement of us will be ours, will be of our children, but leaving a mark in the world, in my opinion, children, grandchildren, a big family, this is something which I find you really reach when you are able to have like a big family. I think that I told you last year, my mother-in-law, who lost her family in Auschwitz, after here in the funeral were more than 100 children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. That's incredible. That's incredible. That exactly as I said, Am Yisrael Chai. You don't have a better expression of it with all these machot that you hear. And yes, there are tragedies, obviously. And the beauty of the Jewish people is that they have the Shiva and they have the Sheva Brachot. And we have a Kaddish, but we have also a Kiddush. So,
nice.
I think we give a right balance to the tragedies in our life and to the hope, the positivity in our life. We have the right balance, I believe.
Rabbi, explain to me the importance of family more so. Is it that it gives you the opportunity to be with young people? So on a personal level, that's a highlight in your life? Or is it like Vayakel, like our Parsha this week, that it's bringing together a greater community amongst Bnei Yisrael?
I think both are true. On a personal basis, obviously, your grandchildren and you, the gap in age create challenges, but there is some beauty where a person in his 60s can play with kids 6 years old. There is something very beautiful about it. But obviously, it's more about the building a community and making sure and see the nachat of your children, like continue your ideals, your views, your ideas. Everyone obviously is doing it differently, but at the end of the day, when you see everyone is going to shul, everyone is part of the Jewish community, everyone cares about Israel, it's a great feeling.
You're also very lucky, and we've talked about this a number of times, thank God, is that because of what you do for a living, because you're a father of many children, thank God, Baruch Hashem, that you are indeed surrounded by youth. And that in itself is a very healthy thing for you.
Absolutely. You had to see me last week. We here in chat, we had a Purim festival, a beautiful one. Very Jewish on one hand, and at the same time, lots of fun. And here, the rule is that everyone tried to come with a costume. So in my age, it sometimes look a little bit silly, but there is something very beautiful in coming with costume and being benafochu, being a little bit different, and
What did
yeah,
you
there
dress
is
up?
something very beautiful about it.
What did you dress up as?
Uh, okay, this is an idea that came to me after the last Shabbaton. In the Shabbaton that I have with grade 9 students, I usually on Seudah Shlishit I tell like a Hasidic tale with a message. And one of the stories that I really love is called the Schwarze Wolf, like the black wolf, about a very interesting Jew that looked very gruesome and ugly, but inside he was sweet and a real righteous person. Um, and the story goes on and on. So I decided to have a costume of the Schwarze Wolf. And that's
Yes.
exactly what happened. And, the students connected it right away. And we had like kind of a competition for the best costume. I didn't win. There were here students who were much more creative, but it was like I got a mentioning for
An
the
honorable
costume.
mention. An honorable mention. Do you dress up
Honorable
at
mention.
you dress up at home or do you and drive to school or do you dress
No,
up?
it was not heavy. It was more about the idea. I had a tail that I brought from home. Like a mask of a wolf. Yeah,
To
very
look what
simple, but the association is more important than like the costume itself. So yes, certainly they keep me young.
good for you. Rabbi, I had the opportunity to read the Megillah for about 40 young people, 13 years old.
Oh,
A family was celebrating their son's bar mitzvah, B'diuk on Purim.
oh,
And what they decided to do was prior to the party itself, that they would have me come and read the Megillah to the kids. So I did that.
that's
I dressed up as a Toronto Maple Leaf hockey player,
oh,
and which isn't hard in our culture. You just put on a sweater. And it was a really nice experience. And I'll tell you what I really liked about it is that I would say the vast majority of it, I read in English, right? I would start off a parak, I would read a few psukim in Hebrew, but then quickly I would go to English. And the reason I did that was because, firstly, I find that most people have no idea what we're saying when we read the Hebrew, right?
oh.
Most people don't know the Hebrew. And the second thing is, and this sort of dovetails into the first, is that it's an incredible story. And you touched on this last week. It's an incredible story. And, some of the kids always, they're talking and they're fidgeting this, and then I go, listen, stop, because this is a story about fighting anti-Semitism. And then they would stop and they would listen very attentively. I love when you can get their attention. And it's an incredible story. I had the chance to read to them.
It's a very interesting Megillah, as you said, and as we explained last week, is one of the best political books ever written. It's a thriller. It's lots of irony, lots of comedy parts, all the ingredients of great literature, number one. And the beauty of all of this, as I said last time, is not mentioning the name of God. Like
Yeah.
the big elephant is in the room, but you have to expose it because it's kind of invisible. And this profound message that we are going to live our life and to read the New York Times or the Toronto Star, and actually you should know that beyond the headlines and the stories, there is an invisible hand of God arranging things in a way that sometimes you don't actually realize in real time.
Rabbi, just to touch on the question of reading in our mother tongue, which is Hebrew, or in English, which is also our mother tongue, why is it that there's such a propensity to teach children in Hebrew? That's fine, but not to have them understand what they're saying necessarily. As an example, when I was brought up, we would read the prayers and they would all be in Hebrew, but I never had a sense of what I was saying. I was rarely ever taught about the translation. Why do we take that educational direction?
You know what? I do believe that it's a mistake, a huge mistake that developed over the years, for years and years. When people got education from the age of 4 and on, the first thing they explained the Siddur to them. When you pray and you don't understand the words honestly, you waste your time. Because beyond the question if you
Yeah.
fulfilled your religious duty or not, the tefillah is something to inspire you. When you read all the Psukei de Dimra, for example, there is a reason for this. This is like meditation before you get to the real stuff of Shema Yisrael, of Shmona Esrei. Like our sages instituted it in order to inspire us. Now, if you just read it, then what did you do? You wasted 10 minutes of your life for doing basically nothing. That's the reality of it. And over time, like it happened to too many things in Jewish life, people attach to the shape, to the outside, to the external thing, which are the words and the psuki de vimra, and not to the content, which is a tragedy. It's a tragedy. I speak to so many people, and I learned that they don't understand. They pray for years and years and years, and they are wonderful Jews, but they don't understand what they say. It's such a tragedy.
So, what's your advice on how to daven in
To
a way that's
learn,
best for the soul?
education today is so available for everyone. I see Balei Tshuva, people who started to be Jews in 40, and sometimes they understand after 1 year the tefillot better than people who daven for 40 years. And the reason is very simple, because they come out of love and they really want to be inspired. They want to understand what they say and they learn it. You have today the art school. You have like dozens of different commentaries on the Siddur. It's easy today. It's not a problem, actually. In my age, I cannot remember in Hebrew. I'm talking about Hebrew, like explanation to the Siddur. And until a certain age, I did not understand the words. Certainly not the ideas. Even today, sometimes I look into the psukim or the tefillot, and it's just incredible. I'll give you, for example, one idea. People say, "Chonenu meitcha," please grant us. De'ah, bina, ve'askel. These are 3 synonyms to wisdom. But there must be a difference if you say all of them. And indeed, each one is a different part of our way of thinking. One is about collecting data and information. One is about the way we process it. The other one is for how we implement it. But most people will say, okay, it's the same, like Chokhmah, De'ah, Bina. It depends if you are Nusach Sfarad or Ashkenaz, if it's De'ah, Bina, ve'askel. But people don't look into it. Now, the interesting thing is that our sages put so many effort into it in order to create a masterpiece that connects us to God. And they made the masterpiece, and it connected to what we are going to say. You can go in the museum and to walk from one side to another very quickly, and you were in the museum. Did you understand any of the pictures in the museum? Did you stand for a second to understand what the artist tried to tell you? Many people don't. Many people don't. So yes, they can come back home and to say we visited the Louvre or the London Gallery, whatever it is. But did they learn anything? Were they inspired? Not necessarily.
I'm just curious, Rabbi. I've often wondered this. As an Israeli, obviously your mother tongue is Hebrew. When you read the prayers or when you open up the Tanakh, or any Israeli for that matter, are they generally able in their head to make ends, to have a good understanding of what they're reading? Do they get the Hebrew?
Most of it, yes. I think so. I on the basis level, I would say that I understand 85% of the tefillot. There are special words that you don't use every day. Anoten la sechvi vina. What is sechvi exactly? But I would say 85 to 90%. I think if your Hebrew is good, you will understand on a basic level. But as I
Right.
said, you can see little children portray themselves or their parents, and there are like artists like Chagall or Picasso who do. Now, both of them describe the same things, but in a completely different level, right? So that's exact. I think that many people daven exactly the same as they were 10, 11, and 12. Their tefillah never developed, and tefillah is art. It's art expressed by word, but is unbelievable art, which is chabal that people don't pay attention to it.
As a rabbi and as a teacher, as a father and a grandfather, all these beautiful hats that you wear. I think one of the questions or one of the things that people might be asking right now is, okay, you make a really good point. I'm not ensconced in my prayer in such a way that I can benefit from what the rabbis were trying to develop for us to come closer to God. How am I supposed to do that? I'm not interested. How do you get somebody interested in such things?
Usually, I have a philosophy in the entire field of education. The greatest motivation is success. One success lead to the next one, but people have to feel good about themselves and about their abilities. And it doesn't make a difference if you teach math, biology, chemistry, music. The moment your student feel that he uh, develop something, he understands better the world around him, he can play few notes, he can solve a problem in math, this by itself will push him further. And the same should be applied for davening. You cannot understand the entire tefillah in one night, and I wouldn't recommend doing it. But I would suggest for every single Jew, every day to take 3 to 10 minutes, depend on how much time you have, and to learn another verse, and over quite a short time, I believe in a year or two, you will get very good idea of what the tefillah is all about, and every time you will find like new meanings and new angles in the text. So the best advice is to do it, a piece by piece, a verse by verse, a word by word. Eventually, since we do it almost on a daily basis, 3 times a day, over time you are going to understand very well the tefillah. Because the tefillah, as I said, on one hand it's a masterpiece. At the same time, it's not unbelievable amount of chapters that you cannot grasp and cannot master one day. I do believe that if a person will take 5 to 10 minutes a day, which seems to be normal and will give you a different flavor, it's like if you don't understand, it's like eating something which is have no flavor, no salt, no pepper, nothing, and even maybe worse because you really like you take 20, 30 minutes of your time and you just mumble words. It's terrible. It's a tragedy, as they say. So 5 minutes a day, I do believe that 5 minutes a day, then you get in a month about 3 hours. Oh, in few months you are going to master most of the tefillah.
Rabbi, a friend of mine told me yesterday, and with this we'll wrap up and head into Parsha and Prose, that there are 5 or 6 different prayers that actually resonate with him. When he reads the prayer of Vayakhel and Asher, that's something that he really thinks about. A prayer, that for the health of Bnei Israel, of the world, and other such things. V'techazena, which is in the middle of Shmon Esrei. Why, I'm not sure. So my question to you is there one really riveting prayer that every morning when you read it, you're really, really taken by it? It's like you want to share the beauty of it, because to say to a person, ensconce yourself in prayer, it's a vast ocean of opportunities, but it's always good to focus in on one thing to start with. What one prayer that you were just really, really taken?
With no question, is the what we say between Shema and Shmon Esrei, which is um, in the morning time
Oh.
and the evening time, describing how God is involved in Jewish history. This resonates with me in really a very deep way. I love Jewish history. I do believe that if you really look into Jewish history, You will find God in every move of the Jewish history, if it was up or down. And this tefillah of Ezrat Avotenu Atam Olam, you always helped our forefathers. And don't think that like question like the Holocaust don't come to me when I say that. But the overall story of 4,000 years of Jewish existence, this tefillah always on a daily basis really inspires me, because I think, wow, that's indeed so true. Like that God from the time that he chose Abraham until this very day, and I am the privileged person to be part of it. To me, it's always like a source of inspiration.
It's a beautiful choice and a surprising one too. Very nice. Very nice. Now, Rabbi, as we know, as we record this podcast, that Israel has gone back into Gaza, and I would like to take this opportunity in the middle of our show to make a blessing for the IDF and for the hostages. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless, preserve, and protect the captives and missing soldiers of the citizens of Israel and the Israel Defense Forces. May God rescue them from captivity and speedily restore them in peace, in the merit of the prayers of this holy congregation who pray for them. May the Holy One, blessed be God, show them mercy, increase their strength, remove their pain, and send them a recovery of body and spirit. May God return them to the bosom of their families swiftly and soon. And let us all say amen. This week, ladies and gentlemen, Parsha and Prose, we're doing something rather interesting once again. And that is we are learning the Parsha together with you, the portion of the Torah, and we are doing it through the lens of classic literature. So this week, the Parsha is Vayakel, and the literature that the rabbi has chosen is My Name is Asher Lev, which is a classic novel written by Chaim Potok. I'd like to take a moment or two just to tell you about both. The Torah portion, Vayakel, that's Exodus 35:1 to 38:20, and it has about 122 psukim, 122 lines. Marks a significant moment in the journey of the Israelites as they prepare to build the Tabernacle, the sacred dwelling place for God's presence. This portion begins with Moses gathering the people of Israel and instructing them on the importance of the Shabbat, a theme that underscores the balance between work and rest. Vayakel then shifts to the detailed construction of the tabernacle, its furnishings, the priestly garments, highlighting the community's collective efforts and the generous spirit of the Bnei Israel, of the people. Through this meticulous description, the portion emphasizes the themes of craftsmanship, dedication, and the role of Israel in creating a space for a divine encounter. This section not only underscores the importance of the physical sanctuary, but also symbolizes the idea of creating a space for the divine presence in the hearts and in the lives of the people. My Name is Asher Lev is a compelling novel by Chaim Potok that follows the life of a young Jewish boy, Asher Lev, who is torn between his deep artistic talent and his devout Hasidic upbringing. Set in Brooklyn, New York, the story explores Asher's inner conflict as he grapples with his need to create art and his desire to honor his religious and familial obligations. His artistic abilities, which he views as a divine gift, are seen by his community as a threat to their religious values, leading to tension and isolation. As Asher matures, he must navigate the difficult path of balancing his passion for art and his loyalty to his faith and to his family. The novel delves into themes of identity, faith, creativity, and the struggle between personal ambition and communal expectations. Through Asher's journey, Potek examines the complexities of pursuing one's true calling, while remaining rooted in a tradition that may not fully understand or accept that calling. Rabbi, I'm always fascinated by how you determine which novels we will be comparing the Parsha to. Why
No,
did you
this is
choose this
so
novel?
easy because really art taking such a important part in the Parshiot of Truma and Tetzaveh and Vayakel and Pekudei. This was quite easy. I was looking for like a novel that talk about artists. It was very easy for me to find many in the books of Agnon that are talking exactly about this point, but we try to bring some other voices as well. And Chaim Potok's My Name is Asher Lev, which I read in Hebrew in a very young age, Shmi Asher Lev, was something that I actually read a few times. for some reason it resonated with me, this like struggle between what the community is expecting of you and what you really want to develop. And I would say, even until this very day, I still have the struggle between me as part of a bigger community and myself as an independent person. So this book, I think, is a must book for maybe every modern Jew.
What I find compelling about the statement that you just made was your challenge throughout your life has been, how do I, Rabbi Shlomo Gamora, actualize myself as an individual to ensure that I'm, giving as best as I possibly can that gift that God gave you to humankind, to the Jewish people, versus your opportunities within the community and your responsibilities. My reading of Asher Lev was a little bit different, as it was The Chosen,
Right.
also written by Chaim Potek, because I was a rabbinical son, and I was actually making the decision as to whether I, as an artist and someone who felt very much part of the world, I had to grapple with, do I want to stay within the Jewish community or go outside of it? That was my challenge, a little bit different than yours.
I think it's a challenge of every religious person in the modern age. We have to be very honest about it. The world around us is beautiful. There are many things that we can derive lots of pleasure, and I'm not talking about like the physical pleasure, but aesthetic beauty. Um, on one hand, and at the same time, your commitment to the Jewish community that sometimes see every move to the right or to the left as a betrayal of the community. It's not easy. And I have to tell you, one of the things that I loved when we moved here to Canada was exactly that. In Israel, you have to put yourself in a certain square, maybe today a little bit less than it used to be. But in a way, I felt, I wouldn't say suffocated in a way, but I would say very limited in the way I can express myself and think to myself and to criticize things that I see. And when we came to Canada, I could be more of myself.
Yeah, I had that discussion with you at your Shabbos table, and I found that very interesting, because to me it was always, I always had this query as to why the Rabbi Shlomo Gomorrah, who personifies his Jewishness, who personifies Israel, why would you want to be here in Canada? And I'm sure that's not the only reason, but that was a very good reason, and I understand it completely. Rabbi, I'm interested in, and then we're going to dive into the Parsha. Asher Lev grappled with his commitment to art and his commitment to his people. What do you tell students? And I'm sure you have this regularly, because I see it with my son, who's an 18-year-old, and he will come up to me and he'll say, "Daddy, you know what? I don't feel Jewish. I just feel human." What do you tell kids who say that?
Yeah, we have. I had many students who spoke the same, and when they left the school, obviously, and mingled into the wider society, sometimes they even criticize the fact that they grew up in a cocoon. But I would say the following: um, in order to be a beautiful butterfly, you have to spend some time in a cocoon, and I do believe that Jewish education helps you to find yourself, strengthens your inner powers, and then to come to the world ready to be who you are, but at the same time to contribute the world to the world around you. That's how I would say, in a capsule, I see the Jewish education, the modern Jewish education. Um, what I tell students about humanity, I do believe that we Jews actually contributed so much to humanity. So to say there is Judaism and humanity and they somehow not exactly converge, no, I see it as the same thing. But, humanity can be limited in a way, or enriched, if you want, by certain philosophy and guidance. Um, I just heard this week, for example, about Professor Kahneman, who got the Nobel Award, one of the geniuses that, I'm sure that many of our listeners read think slow, think fast. Um, and I just heard that he actually made a decision to take his own life, and a year ago he went to Switzerland and took his own life. Now, what the humanist, yes. Does Jewish thought see it as a positive thing? No. Um, does it contradict each other? Well, in a way, yes, and in a way, no. Because the Torah said, yes, we have to give the support, and you have to know, al kochacha nolad, al kochacha met, you are forced to be born, you are forced to die, and you have a little say in it. So there will be differences between modernity and, human thought, but human thought can be limited and inspired at the same time by divine thought.
Rabbi, where did you get that idea that to be a beautiful butterfly, you have to spend time in a
Because I
cocoon?
just saw
Where did
it
that come from?
when my grandchildren come to Toronto. I take them to the beautiful butterfly in Niagara Falls. Did you ever see that? It's a
Yes, yeah,
beautiful
yeah, it's
place,
stunning.
and when I just like to learn from nature, and I said, "Wow, that's." I told my grandchildren, see, the nature is telling us something, that sometimes in order to be such a beautiful creature like a butterfly, you have to go through transformation. You will be ugly as this worm and spend time in a cocoon, but we have to see the whole cycle. At the end, you are
Sometimes,
going to be a beautiful butterfly. So
actually,
this is a lesson directly from God, from nature.
and from Niagara Falls. There are many times where you come up with beautiful ideas and beautiful concepts and metaphors and phrases and examples. Kol hakavod to you. I love that. I love that piece.
I think we just have to listen and to watch everything around us. I think nature, the world, people should be our greatest
Yeah.
teachers. I just have to tell you an anecdote that happened to me a few weeks ago. In the middle of the class, a few students saw like ants on the floor. Apparently, someone left some food or sugary food on the floor, and it attracted ants, and they were very disturbed by it. And I said, I think God sent them to this room for a reason. If ants came to this class, there must be a reason for it. And I will tell you something. I'm declining my job as a teacher, and I will give the ant the job of a teacher. And it's not my idea. King Solomon actually told us to learn from the ant.
Yes.
In,
Yes.
in, in Proverbs, they say, go and see the ant. She doesn't have an officer. She doesn't have a ruler. She doesn't have a monarch to control her. And nevertheless, she's always busy to collect, to prepare for the coming winter. Shouldn't we learn something from it? Maybe God sent it to us to remind us that you are in an age that you have to collect, you have to work. You don't need a teacher to tell you to do your work. You just have to come with this ambitious desire to grow all the time, to make sure that you have something for tomorrow, for the day after. And yeah, I think we just have to look around. So apparently it was not my idea to learn from nature. King Solomon already said, go outside, learn from every animal,
Yes.
learn from everyone something good to do. And I
Yeah.
try to follow it.
There's a beautiful Gemara. I think the question that's asked is, if we didn't have the Torah, wouldn't we
Right,
learn from the ant? Wouldn't we learn from the cat? And all these various different
right.
animals. It's a beautiful piece. I am one who's very much a purveyor of life. I watch, I look. I'm very curious about what's outside of me. Sometimes I know, as an example, when I'm going onto the Allen Expressway here in Toronto, you stop at the red light, and I have a moment to look around and to see, and I'll see a blade of grass or a stick, right, lying on the ground next to me. And I'll think to myself, who, if anybody, ever concentrated on that blade of grass?
Me.
And did you? Do you do that actually? You
Absolutely.
do?
It's one of the things that always attract me. I say,
Right?
wow, that's unbelievable. God like gave this power of life, and in the most unexpected places you
Yes.
will find it. I saw in the Alps something, people are impressed with the beauty of the mountain, and they are gorgeous, and the lakes, they're really gorgeous. But I always attracted to the little blade of grass among the rocks in a place that you wouldn't believe that anything can actually survive or live there. And I see that and I say, oh, Marabu Ma'asecha Hashem, it's just unbelievable. You gave this command to every organism, every a blade of grass to continue to grow, and they just follow your instruction. I wish I would follow your instructions, the same devotion and the same resilience.
Maybe that's why we get along. We see things similarly. Ladies and gentlemen, the Parsha this week is Vayakel, and we are seeing it through the lens of classic literature, which is My Name is Asher Lev. I want to take a moment before I ask Rabbi a number of questions, just to give you the opportunity to understand the stories that are told within the Torah and the beauty of them, and how we can identify with the Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel of that time, and what happens in our life today. Last night when I was reading over the Parsha, I read some of it aloud, and there was a paragraph, and I could have chosen 10, which really was compelling to me, which really grabbed me, which I thought, this is such a beautiful piece, and it really personalizes what is happening amongst the children of Israel having to do with the tabernacle. And I just want to read you a few lines. Close your eyes and think about being there in the Midbar, in the desert at that time, and the beauty of the acceptance of the Jewish people in terms of their responsibility to build a place where God, V'shachanti b'tochem, can come visit and to be part of the Jewish people and part of the world. Listen to these words and think to yourself about the literary aspect of the Torah. And it reads like this. The men came with the women. Everyone whose heart motivated him brought bracelets, nose rings, body ornaments, all sorts of golden ornaments. Every man who raised up an offering of gold to Hashem. Every man with whom was found turquoise, purple, and scarlet wool, linen and goat hair, red-dyed ram skins, and tachash skins brought them. All who separated a portion of silver or copper brought it as a portion for Hashem. And everyone with whom there was an acacia wood for any work of the labor, they brought it. Every wise-hearted woman spun with her hands, and they brought the spun yarn of turquoise purple and scarlet wool and the linen. All the women whose hearts inspired them with wisdom spun the goat hair. The leaders brought the shoham stones, and the stones for the settings of the ephod and the breastplate, the spice for the oil, for illustration, for the anointment oil and the incense spices. Every man and woman whose heart motivated them to bring for any of the work that Hashem had commanded to make through Moses, the children of Israel brought a free will offering to Hashem. Rabbi, it so seems here, perhaps more so than anywhere in the Torah, that the Bnei Yisrael were all in, that their generosity of spirit was concentrated on the creation of this holy venue. Tell me a little bit about that. Every man who was willing, every woman.
Well, number one, I would say they were all under the trauma of Chet HaEgel, of what happened with the golden calf, and they understood that the same community that could worship the golden calf must come together and to atone this, not just like a commandment to do certain things, but when a community comes together, there is so much power. Did you ever see you were in a big demonstration? I love to go sometimes, and in my life I went already 3 times to Washington DC. Took my students with me to demonstrate, if it was recently after October 7th, but even before, I remember 25 years ago, or to go to the march of all the Jewish schools in New York. There is something unbelievable that everyone feels, I can contribute something just by being there, especially if you have to bring with you like a banner or like a sign. People are so excited. I saw students working sometimes the whole night in order to bring like a sign to this demonstration. You feel part of something much bigger than you. This is number one. Number two, the Jewish people went through an amazing experience. They all came together to listen to the word of God on our Sinai. There must be a perpetual a act of getting the Torah, of being so close to God. And that's the purpose of the Mishkan. The Mishkan comes to say it was not only one-time experience, but my Torah is going to be in the center of the temple. I'm going to talk to Moshe Rabbeinu from the center of the temple, from Oil Moed. I am going to be so close to you, in the midst of you, not only one time, or when I gave you the Torah, but every single day of your life as a nation. And I think that if we would hear about it, we would join too.
It just seems like in other parts of the Torah having to deal with major issues that there were complaints, that there were negative aspects to the issue itself. Going up Mount Sinai, Moses spoke with God, came back down, smashed the tablets. But here it was an expression. It was like going to a program, and everybody there is happy to help out. Recently, I went to a Via Hafta program. It's a nonprofit here in Toronto that deals with the impoverished and the homeless. And we went to Baycrest. It was a place for seniors. And we worked together with the seniors on packing bags for the homeless. And while it's very difficult to wrap your mind around the idea that there are people living outside in this very wealthy country, the fact of the matter is this program itself was so beautiful because we were working together seamlessly with another group of people, and we were all happy to be there, and we all opened our hearts to the task before us. And the thing that I love about Vayakel is this expression of true generosity of spirit of the Bnei Israel, as you spoke of.
Absolutely. And you know what? You don't have to go so far. I think it was a great model to see this happening again and again, because in every Jewish community, when the community comes together and build a shul and build a mikveh, build organization, build a beautiful Jewish day school like I'm very privileged to work in, it's the same idea. People come with their money that they could leave to their children. They could take a beautiful vacation, to renovate their homes, to buy a new car. No, these people feel that they have to give something back to the Jewish community. And I remember some of my discussions with wonderful people who were the founder of the Shul Clanton Park, where I live around. You know, people like Hofstadter, Mr. Aaron Frankel, people who came from Europe, sometimes with not a penny in their pocket. And, you know, I'm sure that every penny that they made was important for the family. And no, they decided the first thing they have to do is to build a shul.
Yes.
And everyone joined in. And in my opinion, God gave them the blessing that they deserved. You know, you open your heart to God, and God open sometimes your pocket and your heart and your mind, and they did very, very well. But I'm not so impressed with the great money they did later. I'm impressed with the time that they did not have money, and nevertheless felt the need to build a community through shuls, through education, and over their life. Especially Toronto, I have to tell you, it's, I think, one of the most generous communities in the world. People are at least giving you the feeling that they are privileged to contribute and to give.
Rabbi, because we're talking about art within this Parsha and within this book, I want to be somewhat shameless here, and I want to show you maybe a couple pieces of my art. This is a picture that I painted when my sister Naomi passed away. God bless her soul. It's called Naomi's Garden, and it hangs in my sister Chavi's apartment. She should be well till 120, and there's a lot of feeling in this. The next one that I wanted to show was a painting that I did of two biblical sisters. Who might they be, Rabbi? Two biblical sisters.
This is Vayakhel and Leah, I assume.
Right, exactly.
I love your bright and vivid colors, Avrum. I must say that.
Right. So thank you so much. I had a teacher, he was a Russian teacher, and he told me, Avrum, you know that you're a favist. And at that time, I didn't know what a favist was, but essentially a favist is someone who likes broad brush strokes and very bold and vivid colors. So I thought I would take a moment just to show some of my art there.
Yeah.
Rabbi, in Vayakel, the Israelites are asked to contribute their skills and resources to build the tabernacle, the Mishkan. How does this communal effort resonate with Asher Lev's struggle to pursue his individual artistic passion within the constraints of his Hasidic community?
Yeah, thank you for the question, because indeed I do believe that my name is Asher Lev, bring a very important dimension into the story of the Mishkan. At the end of the day, the Mishkan did not came from heaven. We have a tradition that the third temple is going to come from heaven. But the Mishkan had to be built by artists, by people. And I'm sure that they were extremely talented to create such a magnificent structure. At the Mishkan itself, I'm not talking about every vessel, the menorah, the ark, the cherubim. Everything is magnificent and need the highest skills of an artist. But the Torah says, "Umileitiv ruach Elokim," like when Bezalel was chosen for this, the Torah emphasized that he was skilled and talented, but it was a spirit of God that was given into him. And I do believe that this spirit of God is something that characterizes every great artist. There is something in their work, if it's literature or painting or sculpture, that like you feel like you are in a divine presence. And the Torah see it as Mileitiv Ruach Elokim. It comes from God, and you have to recognize it. Asher Lev, this book put the artist in the center, not the spirit of God in the center, and hence all the struggles and the challenges of the artist and the artist. He sees himself as someone individual, independent from the community, for example, that have to express himself. I think that the Torah give it a twist. Yes, of course, every artist has the talent and skill, but at the end of the day is ve'asur li mikdash. I am at the center of this creation. And as I said, I think that Bezalel is just an example to the struggle of every artist. Is it mine, or is it like I'm subjugated my skills and talent and powers to God? And for many artists, it's a very difficult struggle.
Did you watch Stissel?
I actually wanted to talk about it.
And you did want to
Because
go ahead.
Shisel Akiba is exactly the same idea. Like a guy who grew up in a Haredi community, and he had a yearning for painting, for art. Yeah.
Yeah,
I hope that many people saw Shtisel. I knew that my wife saw the series, and I honestly, I have no time for this. But she told me, come, let's see one episode, and I became addicted.
Yeah.
It was so grappling.
Rabbi, just sort of to concentrate on a nuance within the Torah, because I love the nuances in the Torah, and I mentioned this many times. Like when Yosef was going to look for his brother, he came across an ish, and as a writer and someone who's creative, all of a sudden I like to sort of riff on who is this ish exactly. And the shir that I give on Thursday night, I asked my students to develop an idea behind this man. Tell me what he looked like. Tell me who he was, right? Tell me what aspects of him were important to the story. Have you ever thought about the personality of Oliab, that God gave Bezalel an assistant? What an interesting idea. Where else do you find that someone has an assistant in the Torah?
First of all, I would say the two first people, like the Torah describe Chava, Eve, as Selo Ezer Kenegdo. I'm going to give him an assistant, which doesn't sound too feminist to me, but
no, it doesn't.
But yes, the idea of helping partner is actually quite common. And if you think about the Avot and Imahot, Avram and Sarah, Yitzchak, and they all were not only couples to build a family, but really completed each other. And I think the best example will be Moshe and Aaron. Moshe, like Moshe was the ideologist, the inspirer, And Aaron was the speaker, was the person who made the diplomacy with Paro and with others, and brought the ideas and the commandments of Moshe to the people.
I was actually going to say Moshe and Yoshua, but yeah, yes, your point is well
They
taken.
were more relationship of a teacher-student, which is very different than like a team. Interestingly enough, according to our sages, and they prove it, Bezalel was just after his bar mitzvah. He was apparently this one of like talented people who could imagine how something has to be created, and he created it in the most beautiful way. And Ohliav actually was older, but when you come to art, sometimes I see on YouTube like 5 years old people playing on piano. Unbelievable complicated Beethoven sonnets or sometimes concertos, and I say, okay, you see, sometimes the age does not make any difference. I could sit next to the piano and maybe I cannot play you know anything, and here you have like 5 years old with unbelievable talent.
Yeah, yeah.
So again, the idea of the Torah is that the talent by itself was not enough. It had to be a divinely talent.
Right,
And
right.
Bezalel had it, and apparently Oliav also, knowing was a master, was a great artist, but he was just helping Bezalel.
Do you know anything about Oliab?
We know what tribe he came from, but not too much. I
Yeah.
don't know. Do you know?
No, but I find it a fascinating opportunity to develop his persona in my own imagination.
Okay,
I
great.
love the idea of a 13-year-old Bezalel and this older person. How old he was, I don't know. That they were from different tribes, and that in itself creates an interesting dynamic because it's significant, right?
Yep.
And and the idea that this older person is listening to this younger person because he is the one who is imbued with the Spirit of God. That in itself is beautiful imagery to me.
And I think if you look into their names in Hebrew, there is something very interesting here, because I think it tells you something about what you need to be a great artist. What is Betzalel? Betzalel in Hebrew, you can divide it into two words. Betzel, in the shadow of El, of God.
Yes.
Because artists need inspiration. You will never be a great artist if you don't have this divinely inspiration that takes you beyond the material that you work with, the painting that you are painting. There is something that you put kind of like a soul into the creation, into the picture. That differ one artist from the other and one picture from the other. Like it's a neshama inside that was infused into a two-dimension creation, or sometimes three-dimensions sculpture. Um, Yav is Ohel, a tent. Av. It talks more about the actual making of the Mishkan, Ohel, a tent, to Av, to God. So I think we have here two people that apparently each one of them brought something different. Bezalel brought the divinity, the inspiration, and maybe Oalia was the person who could translate it to real item, real object, real tent, and so on. So maybe they were needed to each other to create a team of divine inspiration and skilled and talented artists.
Rabbi, I know you're not a painter. I know you're not into fine art, but what would be the comparable in your life to being a painter? How are you an artist? How are you creative?
I think a little bit with words. We never speak about it, but it's a little bit away from what we discussed. But sometimes you know about your talent in unexpected way. And just yesterday, I had this experience. Um, people sometimes consult me with writing matzevos to their relatives, which is kind of art because you have to describe a person in a very few words.
A tombstone, to write on a tombstone, right?
On a tombstone in matzeva, yeah. And to create by words like an image of a person who passed away and what you want people to that he will remember it by. And yeah, I with words sometimes I found that again, I think that it comes with inspiration from Hashem. I managed to craft by words an image, which is a very profound feeling. You can take words and to create an image. I don't know how to explain it.
I have had a little experience with you as a writer, and I must say that you're a brilliant writer. You really are.
Thank you.
And I'm going to keep pushing you to write your book. Rabbi, Vayakel emphasizes the importance of craftsmanship in creating a sacred space for God. How does Asher Lev's art, which is seen as a form of personal expression, contrast with the idea of using one's skill for the collective good as seen in the tabernacle construction?
Again, it comes from the same point. For Asher Lev, it was a vehicle to express himself, the inner of himself, the deepest point in his soul to the outside. And by the way, we have to remember that the rabbi, and many people believe it was a description of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, which is not too surprising, I must say, who gave him the idea to be in touch with Kahan, which was a teacher for art. Why the Rebbe would get involved in something like this and actually giving some ideas to Asher Lev to go and to learn from a teacher who himself was not religious. I think that the rabbi, and if indeed it was the Lubavitcher Rebbe, it fits many other things that he did in his life, felt that there is something in the soul of everyone, which is obviously coming from Hashem, from God, that must be expressed in a unique way, because each one of us is different. God does not need two Shlomo Gemara or Avrum Rosensweig. God needs apparently in his world someone like you, someone like me, and we are not the same. And I think a great rabbi can feel that every Jew belongs to any community, bring to the world something unique because his neshama is unique. And therefore he sent him to someone that might, as it happened, influence him in a different way, but you cannot stop the flow of a river and you cannot stop the flow of the divine spirit. It must materialize this way or another. The saddest thing is when people don't take their powers and express them to the world around them. This is a real tragedy. This is a real tragedy. But again, for him, it was a self-redemption. For us, the Torah sees it as a nation redemption, which was not just ended with leaving Egypt, but the ability of a community to create something and to be connected to their spiritual side through the Mishkan, through the temple. So again, Asher Lev is about individual. The Torah is about art as part of the community and coming back and returning to the community.
It's also very interesting that you find within the Torah regularly comparisons between different dynamics. And in this case, what perhaps we could say that this is all about creativity. It's all about individualizing oneself. It's all about stepping up and using that gift from within, as I said before, towards the creation of something which is godly. That whole concept, that whole idea, I think is anathema to slavery. As a slave, you're not an individual. You don't have the ability to express your creativity. So those are two interesting different dynamics.
That's very interesting. But, it many times hits me, who can really create such a magnificent, beautiful shulchan and menorah and the aron. You must be very, very skilled. And with all due respect, you are not born like a genius of art that can just say, "Oh, build an aron or build a menorah," and you know how to do it. You have to be very skilled in the materials. Many people talk about Da Vinci or Bernini. You know that major part of their life they learned geology. They learned like how the rocks are created. What is exactly the hardness of each rock? Like there is lots of science going into it. And the question is like how Bezalel, with all due respect, or Holiab, or all the other people who helped them, could create such a beautiful, magnificent Mishkan. And I do believe that as slaves, these people were trained to be jewelers and to build for the Egyptians, who had a beautiful, beautiful buildings and structures.
Yes.
So here, when they build it to their master, to the Egyptians, to glorify them, they took all this talent and built something for themselves and for God. This is like taking the talent and the skills and to make them for a higher purpose. That's by itself an amazing idea.
Rabbi, you're a great lover of mathematics. You know that many people who are artists actually they had their starting point is sort of a mathematical figure that they'll have on the canvas or on a piece of paper.
Absolutely. You have to know like ratios and sometimes they use like ratios which are not real to emphasize. If you see, for example, the sculpture, the famous of Michelangelo of David, you can see that he actually sometimes changed the ratios of the muscles and other parts of the body in order to emphasize certain ideas about the sculpture. So they were masters of math and ratios and functions, no questions about it.
Rabbi, the Sabbath plays a central role in Vayakel, Shabbat, and Moses reminds the people of its sanctity. How does Asher Lev's devotion to his craft challenge or conflict with the observance of Shabbat, a central element in his religious life?
The question is indeed why we have Shabbat. I think that sometimes we are so addicted to our own success and the ability to create, which is the most satisfying thing in life. Creation, when you see people create, and in education you use a lot projects people put together. And I hope that one day I'm going to talk to you about one person that I want you to interview. This is a very, very talented educator. She grew up in Toronto, but she brought the whole idea of projects for students to another level. And she told me once, when a student can take something that he created or she created, it changed the whole attitude and understanding of something in the Torah. I will give you her name after the show. You have to interview her. And
you don't want to give her name now? Give her some kavod.
I don't know if she would like it.
Okay,
yeah.
Fine. Yeah.
So, but indeed, great educators can take these projects and to bring students to a different level, because there is a big difference between reading about something and doing something inspired by what you read. This is a beautiful idea, and you need very talented educator actually to execute it. People love it, and sometimes you have to remind them, stop there. Like, don't fall in love with yourself, basically, because your creator is yourself. You have to stop one day in a week and to remember where it comes from and when it should lead you to. And this is your relationship with God. So the Torah in Parshat Vayakel actually is giving us direction for two temples. One in a space, the temple itself, the tabernacle, and one in time. And Shabbat, as I think Avrum Heschel once said in a very brilliant way,
Wonderful
Shabbat is the temple
Shabbat,
in time.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Shabbat is
a temple in time. we make one day holy, giving it to God, connecting with God, and this is Shabbat. And the Torah want to tell us there is one way to connect to God through your deeds, and one day by actually resting and connecting on a spiritual way.
I was reading recently that Shabbat is probably the best example within humankind of a utopia of the perfect world, which is a very nice thought.
Absolutely. And when we sing the Mirot Shabbat, we call it Me'ein Olam Haba. It's like an image of the world to come, that is going to be a world that we will be free from parnasa and running after money and jealousy, and we will just enjoy the presence of God around us. And Shabbat is, a 1% or maybe a promile of this feeling.
Yeah, there's a Hebrew word levalot, which I think refers to that, which is to enjoy life, to embrace life.
Yeah.
Rabbi, there's a few very fascinating lines within My Name is Asher Lev by Chaim Potok. I want to read one of the following. I want to ask you your response to it and whether there's any Jewishness to it. It's a very compelling idea. Art is a lie that makes us realize the truth.
That's a very profound sentence. Yeah, and very true one, because most of the truth in our life we learn through our lies or lies that people try to tell us. It's a very profound truth by itself.
I've read a lot on the philosophy of art by Ayn Rand and other such people, and there's a sort of a machlokus out there, which is art indeed as the art of the Mishkan, let's say. Is that a reflection of truth, or is it a way of protecting ourselves from truth?
Well, that's a major philosophical question. And, the truth is in the eye of the beholder, is a major concept in modern art, because sometimes the artist meant something very different, but it depends on you, how you perceive the art. And yes, art can be very deceiving also. Very deceiving.
Rabbi, in Vayakel, there's an emphasis on the physical materials used to create a holy space, a very big emphasis. How might Asher Lev's use of material in his art symbolize or contrast with the sacred materials used to build the tabernacle?
I think the interesting thing is that Tabernacle was not something that was free art. Okay, imagine, make your structure. It was very, very detailed. There is nothing that you can take and to bring into like your idea, your skills, your affinity to certain area or field of art. Basically, Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu every single detail of the Mishkan, and he could not miss anything or to add anything. And that's exactly, I think, the source of the tension for Asher Lev and many other artists. You are not going to tell me how I will express myself. And therefore, when you talk about the materials, on one hand, you can be impressed with the variety of materials, zahav, kesef, nechoshet. But at the same time, remember, it actually limits you. If you want platinum, you cannot bring it to the Mikdash. If you want to put something of gold instead of silver, you're not allowed to do it. You are going to affect the whole Mishkan. I think for Asher Lev, he could not take it. If you would tell him that he has to paint it in a certain way, he will resist it. He will resist it because his resistance actually came from the fact, I believe, that he was told you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to stand the expectations of the community in this way or in this way. And a real artist simply cannot bind to these kind of things. I'm a person, I'm an individual person. Don't tell me what to do. So we have to remember that this is a big difference between Vayakel and My Name is Asher Lev.
Artists, if you ask them, do they enjoy doing commissions? The answer is generally no, they don't. a person will come along and say, here's a beautiful picture that I grew up with. I would like you to paint that picture exactly. Most artists do not enjoy that.
That's interesting. But most of the great art, especially in Europe, was commissioned. If it was by the Pope, if we talk about like churches or
It was commissioned, but the artist had the ability to bring
many
themselves
times,
to the
yes,
piece.
many times not so much. But
Granted,
yeah, I do agree with you. Many of them had they were commissioned to do like a certain size of sculpture or a picture to a church. It has to fit certain dimension, obviously. So it was a mixture of both. Listen, they also
Rabbi,
needed parnasa, right? So
granted, yes. And some of them were lucky to be able to be taken on by emperors or by very, very wealthy people. You mentioned Da Vinci. Da Vinci is one such example. Rabbi, in conclusion, I want to mention a bunch of the materials that were used within the tabernacle, and I'm just wondering if there's any one of them or two of them that jump out at you, and for what reason. Gold, silver, and bronze, blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, fine linen, goat hair, ram skins dyed red, wood from the acacia trees, olive oil, spices for incense, onyx stones and other gemstones, bronze for the altar, and the wash basin. Does anything jump out at you there?
listen, I actually went in Israel to a place where they produce a tchelet, the color of. It's not exactly light blue. We used to think about tchelet as light blue. It's kind of like between blue and teal, something like this. You can see today
Yes.
on many people are wearing the talis katan or the talis with this special color. I'm not sure this was the color or not, but I love to see this color. There is some royalty in it, something unique in it. But again, most times I'm not so connected to the material itself rather than the final product. But for artists, the materials themselves are part of the major part actually of the art itself.
Well, it's interesting you use the word royalty because the color that's actually referred to as the royal color is argamon.
Right.
It's purple. Purple is really the only color that has a following. I don't know if you've ever met somebody who all they wear is purple. I used to work with someone at the United Jewish Appeal that way. But purple is very distinct in the history of colors. It's a difficult color to come upon. And in those days, when it was used for various different holy things, it had to be extracted from snails, as an example.
Yeah, the tchelet is
that was
also taken from a special creature.
The cuttlefish, I think. A cuttlefish, I think, no?
There was a big machloket between Gdolei Israel because the Radzin, the Admor of Radzin, spent most of his life searching for the real color of tchelet, and until this very day, the Hasidim of Radzin, they wear this color. But interestingly enough, Rabbi Herzog, who was the second chief rabbi of Israel and was also had a doctorate of and by the way, the grandfather of the present Nasi of Israel, Bougie Herzog, is a grandson of the president today, the grandson of the second chief rabbi of Israel after Rabbi Kook. And he came with a PhD, I believe in chemistry, I'm not sure. I think his dissertation was about the tchelet. And he came to very different conclusion than this Admor of Radzin. His opinion was actually improved by some chemicists in the last 20 years. And today they produce it in a very different way from different materials. And they sell it. It's not cheap. So if it's from a fish or from a snail, that's exactly the difference between the Admor and the Rabbein. It's an interesting thing, and I'm sure that when the third Beit Hamikdash is going to be built, we will know who's right, who's wrong.
God willing. Rabbi, in conclusion, and we've talked about this a little bit. We don't have to go off on a great tangent, but I'm just curious and I need to ask it. The Parsha says, whoever does work on Shabbat shall be put to death. mochumot. And mochumot is a ubiquitous phrase that you find it very often throughout the Torah. That if you do something which is against the Torah, that there's very good likelihood that your punishment would be mochumot. You will surely die. My question to you is simple, and I realize that it could take up a whole podcast. Why? Why is God so intent upon, if you do this, I'm going to take your life? It seems so dramatic, and it seems a little bit out of context with the sin itself. If I keep Shabbat, but I happen to carry outside of the four amot, or maybe that's not a great example, but I die something, or I write three letters, mochumot, then I shall surely die. Why so dramatic?
We spoke about the fact that actually very few people died as a result of transgressions of the Torah, because the Torah at the same time give you like many escape roads not to die. You need atra'ah, you need like warning in a certain way,
Yeah,
etc.,
we did
etc.
talk
So
about that. Yeah.
they always say the Torah, when the Torah said mot yumat, she's more talking about like how serious is a violation rather than like what the consequences, because sometimes a punishment is just a marker to how serious it is. So every student know that for certain things he's going to get this and this and this punishment. Now sometimes it never happened over a year. Some of these transgressions were not committed by anyone, even in a school of more than 1,000 students, but it's there. And you know that the school takes this issue very, very seriously. Very seriously. How do you know that it's serious? Because for one thing, you get like suspended for half a day, and for something else, you are expelled. So it means that the severity of the deed of the transgression are different. I think the Torah again is about accepting God as the master of your life. And the person who is violating Shabbat, the Torah just say you are in competition of God, and since God gave you the life, He demand that this kind of life is not going to be sustained. So it's more about the reminding us how the Torah view us and our connection with God. The moment you rebel against God who gave you life, the Torah said, well, your life, that's not the reason why I brought you to this world. Then what you want?
Rabbi, how is your AI studying going?
Pretty good. I learn every day something new. And you know what? The second day, I learned that what I learned, actually, I don't need it anymore. I just need the right prompt. And I'm very, you know what? It's good that we already like in 75% maybe of our podcast, because maybe in few months, Avrum, you will be able, like, to make the whole podcast without me, without you.
What an exciting prospect that is. Rabbi, I asked you about AI because I have a poem here, and it's yeah, absolutely, and it's called "An Ode to Vayakel," and it's written by AI, or I should say, it's not written by, perhaps it's compiled by AI. In Vayakel, the work is laid, a sacred task, the plans displayed. The Mishkan's walls, the golden light, a place where heaven meets the night. But in my heart, a different call, a voice that rises sharp and tall, to paint, to carve, to find my way through hands that work and words that sway. The arc of gold, the fine spun thread, a world of laws where souls are wed. Yet I, like Asher, lost in thought, wrestle with the art that I have been taught. The curtains drape with care and grace, but in my mind I see no space for beauty born of pure restraint, or art that speaks without complaint. Moses speaks and all obey, a divine command, a guiding ray. But in my veins the brush does burn, and with each stroke I yearn and I yearn. What is this place where rules demand, and yet the soul must make it stand? In Vayakel the work is clear, but does the artist find his way here? The Mishkan built with holy hands, the weight of faith, the ancient plans, yet in the silence of my mind I seek the art that the world won't find. So here in shadows deep and wide I paint my soul, I cannot hide. Like Asher Lev, I wrestle still between the law and art's pure will. So who's that?
I'm impressed. Actually, I heard here some more profound ideas than usual.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Okay.
Has anyone ever told you that your face reflects your
Did it?
feelings very clearly? Yeah, very
I
clearly.
will
Yes.
have to see it in when you
Look
when
in the
you
mirror.
publish the podcast.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you very much for joining us here at Parsha and Prose. It's our weekly podcast having to do with the Parsha of the week, the portion of the Torah that we learn for that particular week. And what we like to bring to you is another dynamic, another dimension to understand the Parsha, and that is through classic literature. So we hope that you enjoyed what we did today and our dialogue, our back and forth. I know that I did. And I would just like to conclude by saying, that Torah has brought me a lot of pleasure, and it does an awful lot of people, the learning of it. A few weeks ago, during my shir on Thursday nights, it was a very sad evening because it was at that point that some of our hostages were returned dead. And people were very sad, and they were expressing their melancholy and quite a bit. And my sister Chavi said at some point, she said, you know what, let's learn Torah because this will make us happy. And she was right. 15, 20 minutes into Torah learning, we forgot about the struggles of a Jew. We forgot about the difficulties that we are all going through after October 7th, even right up until today. If not for any other reason, Torah will bring you a lot of pleasure, the study of it. And I recommend very strongly, and I'm sure that my dear friend Rabbi Gomorrah will concur, that if you haven't studied Torah and you want to enhance your Judaism, you want to enhance your intellect, your sense of spirit, start to learn something within Torah. Rabbi, you want to add to
Absolutely,
that at all?
absolutely, absolutely. There is nothing that grasps the attention and the mind and the heart of a person like learning Torah. I see it with young people, I see it with adults, I see it with so many people. And you know what? I have to tell you, Avrum, I don't want to brag about our podcast, but many people come to me and tell me how much they enjoy our discussions, our ideas. And I say it's not about me and you, with all due respect. I think the power of Torah to inspire, to resonate, to teach you something new is just unbelievable. It's just the power of Torah.
I'm very curious. You have an hour in the day, and you have the option of learning Chumash or Talmud or perhaps Musar or something. What do you usually
It
go to?
depends on the age and your previous level. I highly recommend learning Midrash, stories and wisdom, which is collected in files like Midrash or Talmud. For people who have a low background in Jewish studies, if I
Midrash.
would have, um, let's say, something between half an hour and an hour, and I would be in an adult, not like a student in high school or elementary school. People who just want to experience it, I would go to the Midrash. This is a collection of stories of wisdom, of a commentary about the Torah. I think very, very quickly you are going to be attracted to it and to try to learn more, because you don't have to go to great lengths in order to enjoy the power of Torah. Sometimes a short story, sometimes a commentary on the Torah, sometimes a good question will inspire you to explore more. So that's where I would start. And maybe together we can think about a short Dvar Torah or a short learning, um, raw materials that can inspire people and to give them some ideas, what kind of question they should ask about it, what direction they could explore when they try to answer it, and so on.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening and for watching. We had a very good time here, and we're so grateful that you join us and that you watch the show and that you listen to it. We would ask you to subscribe to the Avrum Rosensweig channel, if you will. And if you have any questions, be in touch with us. You have our emails at the bottom of the page. Until next week, God willing, when we meet again, I'm Yisrael Chai, proud to be a Jew, and God shall watch over all of Bnei Yisrael, the IDF, and bring home our hostages. Thank you so much.